Hi, I'm Brittney Saunders and welcome to Big Business, the place where business is far from boring, and today I'm recording on Gadigal land. Now, I somehow managed to build an empire from the garage underneath my house, and I'm here to share it all with you. From the wins, the mistakes, the challenging times, and the funny moments in between. So whether you're in business already, perhaps you're not in the game at all, maybe you're looking for some inspo, or you just simply want to hear the tea when it comes to running a business, this is the podcast for you. Coming up on today's episode, I'm joined by a very old friend of mine, Keira Rumble. Now, Keira is an Australian entrepreneur and the founder and CEO of Krumbled Group, encompassing Krumbled Foods, Habitual Beauty, and her newest venture, Minnie and Me. Keira and I go way back, and I'm so excited to be bringing her onto the pod today. We are discussing all things her business, her journey, how it's taken her over 10 years to get to where she is today, and all the mistakes and challenges that she has faced along the way. Keira, welcome to Big Business.
Thanks for having me.
I feel like this is a long time in the works because we have known of each other for a really long time.
Yeah, I reckon like well over 10 years, hey?
Yeah. And before you came on the pod, we were chatting about, well, we sent over some questions to you and you were talking about how your business journey has been this like 10 plus year venture. And I think when I first connected with you back then, like 10 or so years ago, I think that's when you were doing like the hand rolled balls at home.
Yeah.
So take us through your journey of all of your many business ventures. Like it began obviously a long time ago.
Yeah. It's funny because it seems like I'm still very much in like a startup phase within the business.
Do we ever get out of that mentality?
I don't know. But yeah, it started when I got really sick. I was pre-diabetic.
Right.
And I couldn't find a healthy option in the supermarket that wasn't like filled with sugar. So I just started making my own and then went to so many different cafes and said, hey, do you want to stock my product? And I was working full time. And then all of a sudden I had like 60 stockists. And then I was kind of in the position where I had to quit my full-time job. And I was thrown into this world of owning a business and having no idea. But yeah, we've definitely come a long way since then. I never want to roll a protein ball ever again.
I feel like you were almost really ahead of the game back then because it was so long ago.
Yeah.
I remember everyone back then, because this was also when we saw like Instagram come into play and like the rise of influencers in Australia. And I know that you built a following of your own.
Yeah.
How did you build the following initially? Was it because of all like these healthy treats that you were making?
I actually got picked up by Lorna Jane and her ebook.
Okay.
Because I was documenting sort of my journey of health and well-being, and then I started doing recipes because I love food. And I remember she posted like 3 of my recipes in an ebook, and then overnight it was just something that just was huge. And that was really the start of me dipping my toes into the Instagram world.
I feel like back then Instagram was so different.
So different.
Like you could have someone mention you in a blog or something a couple of times.
Yeah.
And you would instantly get thousands of followers.
Yeah.
Like it was so much easier to grow back then. And I don't know about you, but I know that I'm grateful that I kind of started my online brand journey back then.
Yeah,
Because
definitely.
imagine, coming into it now when it's so different.
I just don't even know if you'd even be able to. Yeah. I mean, you are like the OG when it comes to YouTube. And someone said the other day, oh, what's your, are you doing any YouTube advertising? And I was like, oh, shit. Do I need to?
I haven't logged into YouTube for years.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even remember my YouTube password, but it's somewhere there. The poor thing. It's ancient. So obviously Krumbled was your first business, right?
Yeah. So once the protein balls sort of took off, there was only so many hand rolling protein balls that I could do. So I knew I needed to commercialize the product, but I had no idea how to do it. And my partner, Anthony, and I kind of just went alongside and sort of grew the businesses together, but very much he was still working full time. This was like my full-time thing. And we went and started the quest to commercialize it. Mm-hmm. So we wouldn't have to be manually rolling protein balls anymore.
So you're quite literally just getting all the ingredients together, mixing them up in a bowl.
Yeah. Then hired a commercial kitchen and doing like bulk making of it. And then it just sort of grew and grew and grew to the point where it was just 24/7. barely sleeping, trying to roll these bloody protein balls and fulfill all these orders. And I was cold calling to all these cafes, which is my idea of absolute hell.
Cold calling.
I was dropping in going, hi, I've got a protein ball business. Do you want to stock my products? And it's just, I look back going, how did I do that? Because that's just my idea of just, getting completely out of my comfort zone. But yeah, we ended up launching Krumbles properly and it flopped. And I thought I needed to hire like a broker and outsource everything. And that was just my sort of inner critic being like, I can't do it. So we hired people, and that was sort of one of the biggest downfalls that we did, was to outsource a lot of things.
Would you say that was the reason why the balls flopped?
Yeah, I think
what was
so.
it exactly? And like when you say it flopped, like what exactly happened?
So the margins weren't there.
Right.
We were guided by the wrong people because I really had no idea what we were really doing. We were trying to learn. And we were at the time looking at YouTube, how to do SEO and building a website and all of these things and very much doing everything on our own.
Yep.
But when it came to sales, I thought, okay, well, I needed someone to do it for me. And yeah, I think the margins weren't there. I wasn't really happy with the formulation, but we kind of took so long to get to where we were because we were saving, and then we had to find out more money and, using Instagram to sort of fund it all.
Yep.
And there was just so many things that just didn't go right from the get-go. And I ended up just deciding, okay, I need to pull it.
Yep.
And lost, heaps of money from doing that. But I think that's the right thing.
I think that's one thing when anyone's going into business. Like I say this all the time on this podcast, like none of us have any idea what we're doing.
Yeah.
Like no one.
Yeah.
And I think that can be a really scary thing for any business owner, especially if they're starting out and they're in those early days and you just think, what the fuck am I actually doing? And in your instance, you thought because you wanted to expand and go really commercial with your balls that you're like, oh, well, I don't know how to do this. I'm going to get a bunch of people on board and they're going to be the ones that can just tell me
what to do.
And I think it can be easier for us sometimes to think, yep, I'm going to pay someone to tell me what to do.
Yeah.
But it sometimes isn't always the right move.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the biggest things is I've learned a lot of what not to do in business.
I think that's what business is.
Yeah.
Like just learning every time, oh, I did that wrong. Next time I'll do that
Note
instead.
to self. But I still have the biggest we are about to launch a product for habitual beauty and we were getting everything ready. And I was like, where are the boxes? Are they in the warehouse? And we were looking around in the warehouse for like a solid half a day. And then I realized I hadn't ordered the box.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, that's a first.
Yep. I feel like those mistakes, like you never stop making them. Like us recently with our lip oils that we just launched.
The barcodes.
The barcodes.
Yeah.
Like just
I had a big chuckle at that.
we barcode all of our like fate items.
But you're not used to a box.
No. And so we were so worried about getting like the writing on the box correct and like spell checking that freaking tiny little writing, making sure the right logos are on there, vegan, made in Australia, blah, blah, blah. Forgot the barcode, didn't I?
Yeah.
So then we sat there for days like putting these barcodes on.
Yep.
But you never, like no matter how big you get in business or how much better you get, I find like you still do those things, like even when you're well into your journey.
Yeah.
And we just have to be okay with that.
And I think it's about going, okay, next time I won't do that.
I feel like
smiling and going, we'll be fine.
Oh, yeah. I feel like that's just honestly what business is in a nutshell. So you obviously started this on your own. Then you thought, I'm going to scale this thing up.
Yeah.
You got some people on board to try to help with that.
Yeah.
And then it flopped.
Yeah.
Where did you go from there? Like, how did you pivot?
In the background, I was developing Beauty Bites with my food tech. And I always knew that Beauty Bites was going to be the product to help, us cement ourselves within this health food industry, because I was really trying to turn it on its head and actually have a healthy product within the supermarket. Mm-hmm. And because it blended collagen and vitamins with food, it was a completely new category. Nowhere in the Australian market there was a functional food at the time when we launched. And I remember I went to Priceline and I pitched it. I would be flying down to have a meeting with the wrong person, but I knew I just needed to get my foot in the door and then pitch them the concept. Yeah, that sounds really good. Come back down when you've got prototypes. And so I'd fly back down and, get, the prototypes on the table and talk them through it. And it was a real slow process, but I knew that they were really interested because they could leverage that sort of influencer side of things. They knew I was really good with marketing and they knew that it was a really good product.
Yep.
And so we launched with Priceline. It was incredible. And then pretty quickly after that, I hunted down the buyer for Coles. And I went.
How do you hunt these people down, by the way?
on
LinkedIn? Yeah, you just stalk them.
Yeah. And
do you have the setting on where they can see when you viewed their profile? I always get really scared about that. You know how
I'm
it's like,
sure.
Brittney viewed your profile.
Yeah.
I get really scared of whose LinkedIn I go on to.
Yeah. I haven't used LinkedIn for a while because I've just been caught up with everything else.
It's one of those platforms where it's like so powerful, LinkedIn, like the connections that you can make on there. I know people that have built their careers from LinkedIn, like just from networking. Yeah. But it's one of those apps that I'm just like, oh, I don't have time.
Yeah. And time is so, it's one of my biggest sticking points is I keep on saying, I don't have time. But, if I wanted to, I'm sure you could apply yourself and find time. I don't know. But I went down to Coles and they were like, no, this is a vitamin. This doesn't sit with us. And I said, taste it. And then they tasted it and they're like, oh, this is definitely food. So we went from Priceline to Coles and was in, the major retailers. And then I was like, okay, well, what next? What do we do now? And so COVID hit and
How did you find COVID times?
Well, COVID, because we were in supermarkets, the sales were fine and steady because people were online shopping and people were going to supermarkets as their one outing.
Yeah,
so it was
honestly an outing.
Yeah. And we were going through IVF at the time and going through a lot of infertility. And then we developed Habitual Beauty, which is a pregnancy-safe skincare range.
Which you've actually brought in for me today.
Did I bring you some Habitual Beauty?
Oh, no. You brought me the mini and me. But you're like, you can still drink it.
I've bought you everything. Yeah, I know. So we launched. I pitched with Sephora to be part of their accelerator program. Mm-hmm. And the first time I pitched, I got turned away. I didn't make the cut. And then the next time I did it, I got it. And then it was incredible. 30 women across the world. We were meant to be in San Fran, but COVID hit. So it was all via correspondence. But that was incredible.
What is it like to I'm always really intrigued when I have guests on that are in like Priceline, Coles, Terry White, this, that and the other. Like, what is it like pitching to these huge corporations and getting that no? Like when you get knocked back? Like what does that do to the ego?
I definitely think now our focus is on e-com.
Yep.
Across all brands. So I think now it's different mentality. But back in the day, a retailer was everything to me. I still value being in a retail outlet for sure. But I don't know, I don't take no well from people. So I guess that's why I reapplied for the Sephora Accelerator program and luckily I got it. But I think there's always learning. So the first time I applied for the Sephora thing, I was going through one of my first pregnancy losses and I needed to go through all of that and really focus on that and go through IVF and go through my personal challenges to really cement myself as who I am as a person. So I had to do a lot of personal growth. So I think that was why I didn't get the Sephora the first time. But I guess that's what I tell myself.
Everything always works out for a reason. It wasn't meant to happen the first time, so it could happen the second time. I think it would be hard, like just thinking from my own perspective, when you have your own business or your own product or whatever, and that's what you've worked on yourself for so long, you're so proud of like the product, you're so proud of the brand.
Yeah.
And I guess like being the founder and owner, you're also just used to calling all the shots and like not having anyone say no or anything along those lines. So I can imagine it would be really hard when you're so passionate about this thing that you're doing and you've been doing it for years to then go into, let's say, like Priceline or wherever.
Yeah.
And do your big pitch that you just think, yep, this is amazing and we're amazing and the product is amazing, and to just have someone turn around and say no.
Yeah.
I can imagine that would like crush your ego a bit.
Yeah, and even just like reading reviews or testimonials, and for the most part, I would say 99% are amazing reviews, but I have a habit, and I know a lot of other business owners have a habit to focus on the negatives.
Oh, 100%.
All the time.
Yeah.
And you take it so personally because it is your own baby, essentially. So that's something that I definitely need to work on. But I think I just remind myself that it's all business.
Yeah.
And they have a job to do. It's not personal, even though if they, say, oh, I don't like the taste of that, that's personal, but it's not.
It's hard. And I think every business owner out there, or even if someone's just like creating content online, or if you're in a position where people can give you feedback on something that you're working on, it is so hard to not take it personally at all. And you can really, like, you could get 100 positive reviews, let's say, on your product. And then if there's that one negative one that comes through, it's louder.
So much louder, and you just focus on it so much more. So it's, once I stopped doing customer service, I felt a lot better because... Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah. I think it's really important when you, like, for any business owners out there, and when you do start it yourself, you are doing all of those jobs on your own. You're doing the customer service, you're packing the orders, like you're doing the social media, you're doing everything. I think one of the biggest weights that was lifted off my shoulders in my business journey was when I stopped doing those emails.
Yeah.
And I've got business owner friends now that still do their customer service because, like, you want to have control over it and you want the experience to be amazing every time.
Yeah.
But especially, like, when you are getting those more, like, negative emails or someone's blowing up because of something, like, I find that a bad position for an owner to be in.
Yeah.
Like, mentally.
It's really taxing.
Yeah.
I actually have just hired my mum to do customer service.
Nice.
And she's doing so well, but you can tell that she takes it personally too.
Oh,
and
100%.
She just tries so hard because she's so invested. And she's like, I don't want this person to have a bad experience. And I just say, so long as that you are giving them good customer service experience, if they don't like the products or they don't like how Australia Post has delivered their order, it's okay.
Yep.
There's only so many things we can control. But I think that, she's so passionate about me.
Bless.
But it's so sweet just seeing she's been great. But I think having that person that's not you do it was really good for my mental health, really not so fixating on it.
I couldn't agree more. And I think another thing that I've learned in my journey as well, people are far more likely to go out of their way to give a business negative feedback if they know the owner.
Mm-hmm.
Like I found that in my journey. I'm not sure about yours, but like, you could go to Coles and get your click and collect or whatever, and you could be missing a couple of items or whatever. Like things like that happen all the time, and people will just be like, "Oh, that's annoying" or whatever.
Yeah.
But they'll keep going back to Coles. Like it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But I've found in my experience, maybe because we did start as this really small business, and like I was the face of it, and I'm online. Like people, if they have an experience that doesn't meet their expectations for whatever reason, like they are far more likely to like single me out and tell me that I'm the
savage.
Yeah.
And
I think that's just a really interesting thing to experience because some people probably do, but where's that same energy towards the huge corporations?
Exactly. And I think one of the biggest things that we've been focusing on, because we've had huge growth in the past sort of 18 months to 2 years, is we definitely did let the customer service slide. And so we did receive a lot more negative feedback. And someone wrote, if she would just spend less time playing with her kids and more time actually doing her job properly. And I was like,
the audacity of people.
And I'm like, if you had actually known the guilt that I have because I leave my children every single day and go and work really long hours. But you just have to remind yourself that it's just all part of... But the great reviews and the really kind-hearted reviews, I try and really focus more on now and make it a conscious decision.
And in the same kind of breath, people that like feel connected to a brand, the way that they would with our brands, like they'll go out of their way to leave a negative review, but at the same time, I also find they will go out of their way to give you that positive feedback.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we really need to focus on as owners.
Yeah.
And yes, pay attention to the bad ones and fix any issues that come along.
Learning too.
100%.
Yeah. But I find that the loyal people, they'll go out of their way to we've just dealt with another copycat for one of our brands, which happens all the time in business. But the amount of people, once they relaunched this product, flooded with DMs saying, have you seen this? Are you okay? And it's just nice to see the other end of, the loyal people that are just loving the brand. And I think what you and I both have in common is we take people along with the journey.
Yes.
And
how important do you think that is in 2024?
So important. Yeah. All of my products really have gone along my life cycle. So, my insulin resistance, being pre-diabetic, created a health food company, then was going through infertility, created a pregnancy safe skincare. And then now I get really sick during my pregnancy. So I get HG. So I'm vomiting like 30 to 40 times during my pregnancies a day. And it's just wild. I didn't even know that could even happen. And, I created Minnie and Me because I wanted to help people.
Yep.
And it's sort of everything happens, along my journey, and I try and fix the problem through products. And so I think people really have gone along with that journey with me, and it just makes them relate a lot more to the product because I show real life, and so do you.
Going back to if we were to launch our businesses today, I speak to a lot of people who are not in business yet, and you hear so much about personal brand and storytelling. I feel with how saturated every market is now, I think it's one thing to have an amazing product. Obviously you're going to need to have an amazing product, but I think the story of your brand and business also equally plays part in getting that sale.
Yeah, and it's about staying true to your why. The majority of people that I know, they start a business for a reason. Mm-hmm. And I think it's that storytelling. I wish I had taken more photos of the early days.
Me too.
I look back at it, I'm like, why didn't I take all of these?
I was embarrassed.
Yeah. And even why didn't I take video? I only took photos.
Me too.
Why was that? And so I think that showing that journey and the evolution of you as a person, you as a business owner, and your brand, it all sort of plays hand in hand. And so even if you just document it and you think, oh, no one's going to be interested in
even
this,
just keep it in your camera roll.
Keep it in your phone. Yeah. It's so
you never
important.
know.
Yeah.
I'm the same. I have a couple of photos that I've kept at the top of my camera roll because I've probably had 6 phones in between then and now. Yep. But in the top of my camera roll is just a couple of photos of me in my shed with my dog.
With your sausage dogs. Same with me.
Packing the orders. And that's all I have. And then my friend Wade, he would come and help me in my shed. And so he's got a couple of time-lapse videos that he did of him packing. Yeah. And I'm like, we need to savor this content because why did we not
do more?
Yeah. But I guess the internet was so different back then. Yeah. That was 7 years ago for me. And there was no such thing as Instagram Reels.
No.
It was just photos on Instagram.
It was just photos, yeah.
It's just wild. But to any owners out there or aspiring business owners, take it from both of us. Document all the little things. Even if you're too nervous or embarrassed to post it online, capture that and just keep it in that camera roll because you never know, 7 years down the track what you might be looking back on. Yeah. And it's really important to keep that.
And also the things that go wrong.
Oh, yeah.
I remember, so when we first launched Beauty Bites, one of the packaging for our apple and cinnamon came out fluoro green.
I think I remember you talking about this on social media, maybe.
Oh, my goodness. It was, and now I laugh, but it was the most stressful time for us because we were crunching on deadline. We had retailers to supply to, and it came back fluoro.
Was it meant to be pale green?
Pastel. Yep. All the colours are really muted and pastel, and it was very much that colour scheme back then too.
Yep.
And it came out. I was like, I can't actually launch this, and just all of those things. And I look back at photos and I just laugh, going, I was so stressed back then. Yeah. But I could have just launched. It would have been fine.
You could have done a fun marketing campaign around.
Yeah.
Marketing campaign around it. What did you end up doing? Did you just remake the packaging?
Yeah, they put a rush on it and we had to delay things and
And then you probably had to airship it.
Yeah, all that fun stuff.
The nice air shipping costs.
Yeah.
So takeaways from this is double and triple check your packaging.
Yes.
If you're making something in a box or in a packet.
Yeah.
Pre-sample that and sample it again and get one from the bulk and check it's all good.
So we even had a huge issue with our barcodes. Barcode issue. So on when we were in Coles, one of our flavours had the same barcode as one of the other flavours.
So it was scanning wrong.
Yeah. And so we're like, why have we got such high scans for this and low scans for this? And it wasn't until an old employee I sort of picked up, it was a duplicated of the die line and not actually done correctly.
Right.
And it wasn't checked off properly. And I'm like, oh, that's a huge error, and that cost me a lot of money.
100%.
Yeah,
It's the tiniest little thing. It can cost a lot.
Yeah.
I even remember, so for the first few years of Fate, we were obviously like small. We didn't even have barcodes.
Yeah.
Which I think every business owner goes through that phase.
Barcodes
as well.
are really confusing too.
Oh, they are.
Because GS1, it does my head in. I can't understand. I now understand it, but I just remember just wrapping my head around that. So
I just let AJ do all the barcode side of things. I don't get it. But for so many years there, we didn't have barcodes on our products. So our entire packaging process, like packing the orders, was just off our eyes.
Yeah.
And so we were like, customers ordered 5 different things, let's say.
Yeah.
We'd be going and finding those 5 things, bringing them over to the packing table, having a look. You know, we've got lots of sizes, and we're just going,
you've got
right,
sizes too.
right, yep, correct, pack it up. And like for years there, like the amount of times that we would send out the wrong size to a customer or the wrong colour.
Yep.
Like it cost thousands, like in like returning it back and sending it back out again, kind of thing. And it was just nuts that we like didn't think, oh, there's probably a better way to do this. And we would then implement all these crazy ways of like trying to get better at manually checking. So like one person would pick it, then the next person would check it.
Yeah.
And then we would even like highlight it in certain colours so we know who checked it. Like just to be like, if there's a mistake and it's a pink highlighter, we knew it was this person.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we got stamps with our name on it. Like just so
we've got
many
the stamps,
Yeah, we got like packed by AJ. Then we would know who made the mistake.
Yeah.
When instead we could have just got barcodes.
Yeah. But it's all of these things that happen in growth. And that's been, I reckon, most of my learnings have happened in the past 2 years because we've experienced such huge growth.
Absolutely.
And it's just, you learn hard and fast, and you have to pivot and make changes. And I recently got diagnosed with ADHD, and I now know that like my brain really doesn't handle change very well. And so I was trying to resist this change that needed to happen within the business, and now understanding a lot more about how my brain works. I'm like, okay, I can deal with this change because of X, Y, Z. And it's really fascinating looking at how we've adapted with growth.
Absolutely. And like you said, when we were chatting earlier on in the episode, how you look back at when you were in those early days and you were pitching to local cafes and rolling the balls yourself, and how you think now that's your worst nightmare, and like you don't know how you did that. I very much feel the same about us and the way that we used to pack our orders and put a stamp on it with our name and highlight with our certain colour highlighter. Yeah. But I think that's what business is. It's like you, for some reason, are willing to do that shit in the early days to get to the point where we're at now. But I look back at like the way we used to do everything and just think I could never do that again.
Yeah.
But like you live and you learn, and that's just business.
Yeah.
People always ask me this question. I'm curious to know your answer. What would you say like has been one of the most challenging parts of your journey, or what do you think is one of the most challenging parts of being in business?
It depends at what stage you had asked me this, because lately staffing and culture has just been something that we've been so focused on, because if you've got bad culture, work's not enjoyable and staff can make or break you as a business. And I think right now I've hired a friend who, it was funny, a few years ago, I was like, you are not ever going to come work with
That's
me.
my rule now.
I know. And I listened to one of your things. I'm like, I've gone and hired my friend, like my literal best
family,
friend,
no
my
friends.
mum.
Fuck that, been there, done
I literally have a clause in our contract that says if shit hits the fan, we're going to go to counselling.
Yeah.
With my friend, because I was really worried. And she's been with me for 6 months and it's been awesome.
Oh, good.
Thank God.
I think it's like if you're going to be like, because my friends are like, not all my friends, but some friends of friends that I know, they're like, oh, they'd be so great for your business. But I know that this is your rule, like no friends and family. Yeah. But I think the reason why I guess I have my walls up regarding working with friends and family is because I did it in the early days when I didn't know any better kind of thing. Whereas like now, if I was for any reason, to hire a friend, like I would have so many more boundaries in place now. Whereas back then it was like, let's hire friends and family. That'd be so fun. And it absolutely shot me in the foot.
Yeah. And it's so funny because I look back at the first girl we ever hired and she was incredible and was with us for so long and she really became such a close friend. But I look, no, we're still friends.
In a good way.
In a good way. But I think it's just funny because if I had hired my friend Elle now, back then, it would have been so different and it would never have worked. But now I knew, okay, I know your skill sets, your people and culture. We've got a really bad culture going on. There's a few bad eggs. We really need to, figure out what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And she came in and it was just, we've just got the most incredible bunch of people now. And it's just so enjoyable to come to work. But you're always going to have, people not liking other people. And I understand
it's one of the hardest things to deal with.
It's so hard to manage people. And
yeah.
I think that the biggest thing that I am learning at the moment is how to actually be a boss because we've gone from, 3 to 4 people to over 25 staff in, a year and a half. And it is busy and you understand. And I think it's just about, okay, I walk in and I'm pretty much dealing with people and their emotions and what's going on and how they are and, what mindset they're in and how busy they are. And I'm really fixating on that because we're not at the stage where I can hire multiple managers to manage. So I'm very much managing. And I was really struggling for a while until I was catching up with one of the girls that own Francesca Jewelry. Mm-hmm. Hannah, and she said, you need to do these HBDI brain quizzes and analyze everyone's brains that work with you to figure out how they operate under stress, if they're super creative and, if they're very much in numbers or they're very much an implementer because I'm very much not an implementer. I'm creative and I make my decisions based off numbers. Mm-hmm. And so I started doing these quizzes with everyone and we did this analysis and it really helped me understand, if some of my girls, if they have something going on in their personal life, they may flatline, so they might be really quiet. And so now I kind of am learning more about how to deal with my staff in the challenges that they face, or if someone's really, really stressed, they may not be as productive. So how do I manage them by still being in a high, a high sort of impact environment, but then reducing their stress load a little bit? And so I'm really finding that helps. And then it's also helping with the hiring. So I now know who I need to be underneath me or who I need to hire for different departments because I know based on the skill sets that we're lacking. Mm-hmm. And it's just been so interesting to learn about it.
To me, staffing is the most challenging part of business for me personally. I'm sure a lot of other business owners will absolutely agree. And like you've been saying, it's just so interesting. I think it's just staffing is the most unexpected part of business.
100%. And I say this all the time. I never started the business to become a
boss. Yeah.
I never in my wildest dreams thought I would have 25 people working for me ever.
I know.
It's wild.
It just catches you off guard. And I think you learn a lot personally as well about who you are when you become the boss of someone.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's so personal to every single individual employee. And I almost think I want to give credit to millennial bosses because I think, I don't know about back in the day, but I think us as millennial bosses, we're so more aware and mindful of staff and everyone's different personalities.
Yeah.
Whereas, I don't know, I can't say for sure, but I feel back in the day, maybe when, our parents were young, I don't think this level of attention would have been there. I think it would just been if you're in a bad mood, harden the fuck up and get on with work kind of thing. Whereas we're out here as bosses being okay, this person needs their feedback given to them in this type of way.
Yeah.
But this other person actually is the opposite of that person, even though they're in the same team. Mm-hmm. And so it's really interesting for us to train our managers that are then going to manage people. And we have a way that we manage people at Fate. And whilst we have a style of management, you can't then just go and implement that to every single staff member because then you've got to work out every single staff member's personality and how best to manage that person.
Yeah.
And that's just the most unsuspecting part of business for me.
It's
just
wild.
Learning all of that.
It's wild. And I found myself, before I hired my friend Elle, spending so much time just managing people. And it was being so unproductive for me because I didn't know what I was doing. And so since she's come on, she's taught me a lot about how to be actually a leader and how to manage people, and then learning about how all of my team operate, because I'm so lucky with my staff. They are, and I often go on podcasts and I speak about myself and the business, but without my staff, I would never be where I am.
No.
And
we're nothing.
We're nothing. I mean, I literally had 9 months off times 2 with my pregnancies because I was so unwell, and my team held down the fort. And it's just, they are just so incredible. And I wish I think they all know how much I appreciate them, but I wish they truly knew just how incredible they are. But it is really intense trying to learn all of different, personalities. And once you get a bad egg, it's really hard to figure out what the problem is, who the problem is. And once you figure out what the problem is, what to do with that.
I know. And that's the hardest thing as well. I've experienced that myself. Like, you have one rotten egg in the carton and the whole thing's off kind of thing. And it's, I feel funny talking about this because you never want it to come across in a way where it's like bitchy or being nasty or whatever. Yeah. But like, your business can severely struggle if you just have one wrong hire in the mix. And then like everyone can begin hating their jobs and not wanting to show up to work. Yeah. And then you're like, oh my God, what do I do? Like you can't just fire someone for having a bad attitude that people don't like. Yeah. So then you've got to like go through all of these hoops. Yep. And it can be super stressful if you're watching your team kind of suffer. Yeah. But again, it's just like a part of business that you're going to deal with. Yeah. And I always stress this in my pod, like having the right people in the right roles is everything for a business, especially a small business that's growing. Yeah. I can't imagine how many businesses are out there that, maybe they've hired friends or family or whatever, and it's just like
been the worst thing ever.
Yeah. And it's fully stopping the business from growing. Yeah. And these people get stuck. And again, that's why I'm so like wary of friends and family, because then you don't have the boundaries, and then you're like, oh, well, I'll just let them keep going because that's my auntie. Like,
Yeah. And that's been the biggest thing, is I set very clear expectations and I am not necessarily managing them. Mm-hmm. But it is such a risk that I have taken on. Yep. And I know. Well, and we could be having another chat in a year and you're like, how's your friend? Oh, God,
she's gone.
No. She's gone. No, but I think that they care so much about myself and the business that I think so far it's going great.
Touch wood.
Everyone touch their head. But yeah, I think that even just the hiring process, I listened to one of the episodes where you were talking about the different hiring processes. Mm-hmm. I remember I'd just have a Zoom interview with someone and then go call them back because I would be so excited. You're hired. Yeah. And like all of those people, well, not all of them, but some of those people were the ones that weren't the best for the business.
I know.
But now we've got a very rigorous hiring process.
It's important, honestly, even if it is your first or second hire. I mean, but I think everyone goes through that. Like we go through those early days of just going, yeah, you're fun. Yeah. Like come on board. Like I would back in the day, like because I'm just interviewing them myself. Yeah. If I clicked with them, like I'm in my early 20s, if I click with them and I could see myself, I guess, being friends with them in my head, I was like, perfect.
Yes.
Come on board. Yeah. And I think like my advice to anyone out there is, don't be that way, but I think we have to be that way in order to get to where we are now. Yeah. Like we're all going to go through that phase of just hiring someone because it seems fun.
Yeah. Or they just sort of on paper look great.
Yes.
And I never used to do reference checks.
Yeah, we never used to either, but now we have.
To hit me over the head every single time. I was like, let's just hire her. She's great. She's like, let me do a reference check. I'm like, okay. And recently we were hiring someone and she was really reluctant to give a reference check. And then turns out there was like AVOs and all of that with her ex-employee and employer. No. And I was like, wow, that's like literally the reason why we do reference checks.
That's the thing as well that I get worried with reference checking is it could be anyone on the phone.
Yeah,
like they could say,
true.
This is my current manager. Yeah. And it could be their auntie that they've just set up. So then I go the extra mile. I'm like, let's ask really hard questions to the reference that only that person would know. Yeah. Yeah. Kind of thing. Because people can lie. Yeah. Like I've experienced like straight up liars, like lie on the resume, lie in the interview, and people can be really convincing. Yeah. But then if you have that little gut feeling and you're like, this person's too good to be true. Yeah. Been there, done that.
Yeah. Because how many people do you have working for you now?
60 or 70.
Yeah, it's so
but like
amazing.
a large majority of our staff are in our retail stores. Like that's why the numbers are so high.
Yeah, but that's still amazing though.
Yeah.
It's like incredible.
Yeah, it's wild. But we've got a lot of people in management positions because it's just
You
too.
wouldn't be able to do it by yourself.
I can't be worrying about Hayley in whatever store in Melbourne, what shift she's can't come into.
Yeah, she's got food poisoning or something. Yeah, no.
But no, we've got a lot of good managers in place now and like HR and everything so that I'm not so much dealing with everyone and everything.
Yeah.
Because, God, I wouldn't sleep.
No, absolutely not.
So what's on the cards for the future? You've got so much going on at the moment. And by the way, the little beauty bites, they're really yum.
Thank you.
I remember you gave me one years and years ago when we did a photo shoot in Sydney for Rockwear.
Oh my
Do you remember that?
Yes.
So like Rockwear, Activewear were doing some campaign. I don't know what it was.
That's yeah. I didn't even
remember that. Yeah, we did it and we were both models in it.
Yeah.
And then I think that's when you had just come out with the beauty bites.
Yeah, probably.
Or
I was like,
something.
here, eat these.
Yeah. And you gave me them and I'm like, what's this? And I'm like, oh, yum. And then you know how like obviously they're like designed to be good for you and whatever.
Yeah.
Now like sometimes when I'm in Chemist Warehouse or whatever and because I see them at the counter. I'll grab 4 and then I can have like 1 a day.
You can just eat them all.
Yeah. But then I'm like, is this really I'm meant to just be having 1.
No, not really. You can have it.
I'm eating 5 at a time. But what's on the cards for the future?
So we started manufacturing everything for ourselves just the week that my daughter was born, which was great timing because, properties don't actually, a build doesn't actually go to plan ever, which I learnt. So, we have been manufacturing for ourselves and we've already outgrown our factory, which is great but also stressful. We've just got so many other products that we want to launch and just really the growth that we've had, it's like a 1,600% year-on-year growth that we're having in each month. It's just...
I think I saw you in one of the J Wright videos or something.
Yeah.
Because you're doing the e-commerce equation.
Yeah. And it's just been huge. But the biggest thing that's been incredible for us is manufacturing for ourselves. We took our old manufacturer to Supreme Court because he tried to knock off our product. Oh. And it's just been, a real big journey. But manufacturing has just given us so much greater control.
So you're doing everything in-house?
We do everything except the skincare because we've got a great manufacturer in Queensland that do the skincare. Yep. So, we do all of the food, all of like the collagen, all of the Hydra Mama and stuff all in-house. And it's just been incredible. We've got such a great production team downstairs. Mm-hmm. So I think we'll either look to move into a bigger premises.
Mm-hmm. Which is so fun, moving warehouses.
Especially because we have bonded panels for the cool room, which our whole factory is in, which is really expensive.
Yeah, I could only imagine.
And then, we'll build enough stock and then transition over. It's just a lot to go with in my head. So that's kind of like our next big hurdle. But we're buying, with the growth, we've just been investing back into the business and buying machinery, which is just epic. So...
I'm so fascinated by like businesses that do things themselves and have all these massive machines. Like I was talking with Raquel from Who is Elijah and they've got like the perfume filling machine and I'm like, what the fuck? How do you even know how to do any of this?
Yeah, it's all my partner. He literally just sits every night. And especially when we're building it, just looking at machinery. And he went overseas. He went to Europe to go and have a look at all the fancy chocolate
because they're all made in like Italy and everything.
Yeah.
And then you import this thing over.
It's just crazy. And then we just bought a new machine for Hydra Mama. And it's this huge, like nearly half the size of this room. And then we got it on the truck. And we're like, how do we get it off the truck?
Yeah.
And so we had to get 2 forklifts. And it was a whole ordeal. So it's so much goes into it. And it's just amazing what he comes up with. It's just,
we love
wild.
the men in our lives.
Yeah, it's funny because when we first started properly working together, there was a huge, we were trying to do the same thing and we just were clashing. And as soon as he started going, okay, well, I'll do, the manufacturing side of things and you do sort of front house side of things, it just works so much better.
Mm-hmm. I think it's really important when you are working with like your partner or even just a business partner is like differentiating the two things that you can do rather than just trying to focus on doing everything together.
Yeah.
Because people always say, how do you and AJ work together? I'm like, we don't really work together. Like we go the whole work day
without seeing each other.
Yeah. Like he's off doing one thing, I'm off doing the other, and then we get together in the afternoon like, how was your day?
Yeah.
Like what did you do?
Yeah.
Because I think when people say, or when people hear us saying, I work with my partner, they think we're like sitting at the desk side by side.
Which is what Anthony and I used to do. We used to, in our little home office, we have one desk and we're sitting so close to each other and we just used to bicker. It's funny, the team laugh going, oh, mum and dad's having another fight. But we just have very strong opinions and we have, it's funny. But,
Some of my staff call us mum and dad too. Or like if we go out for a staff dinner or whatever and we're shouting everyone drinks, they'll be like, thanks, mum and dad. I'm like, shut up. But also funny.
Yeah, it's so funny. But that's kind of just we're really focusing on the growth. We've got so many products that we want to launch and just constantly wanting to evolve as people. And
where does it end
owner.
though? That's the question.
I don't know.
Yeah,
and it's so funny. Like once we launched Beauty Bites, I had all of the big investment companies and bankers go, what's your exit strategy?
I hear
and
that
I'm like,
all
my
the time
what?
too. What's your exit
My
strategy?
what?
I'm like, what do you mean? I just started yesterday.
Yeah. And it's just, I don't know. I've literally named two of my businesses after Keira Rumble. So
it's your name.
Yeah. There's just so much that we want to do before I even contemplate that sort of stuff. We're all sort of self-funded. Like, it's kind of, I'm happy doing it.
We're just getting started.
Yeah, I literally feel like we started a year or two ago.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, it's wild. Yeah.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Or stressed.
That too. Do you have a tip of the week or a hack of any kind that you can share with me?
So I normally say trust your gut, but let's go with something different.
Okay. But also trust your gut.
Yeah, definitely. I think
I agree.
your spidey senses are so key. I think one thing that has helped my productivity, here's a little hack, is called Brain FM.
Okay.
And I literally it's on the internet. You type it in and I put my headphones in and it's got productivity music and it's got different brainwave binaural beats.
Right.
And I just like zone in. So if I want to really have some deep work, that's what I use.
I love that.
It's not really a tip. It's more of like a...
No, I love that. I need that. I've got like the AirPods Max or whatever they are. And I find when I put those on and the noise cancelling and some music, then I can really concentrate.
Yeah.
If I'm in the office and like everyone's typing and everyone's talking, like how are you supposed to get anything done?
Yeah, I literally, because I know you're on the floor, aren't you, in the office? You don't have your own office, do
Yeah.
you? Yeah.
I just sit with everyone else.
Yeah, I would distract everyone. I literally come in, I'm like, and everyone's like, calm down, slow down, what do you want to do? So I'm like, okay, I'll go into the office, compose myself.
I love it. I love it. Well, where can everyone find you and everything that you do and all of your businesses and brands and products?
So they're all linked in my Instagram. Maybe that's the easiest way, which is Krumble with a K, or crumbledfoods.com. And Minnie and Me's shopped on there, or habitualbeauty.co.
You've got something for everyone, really.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And we'll leave all the links in the show notes as always. And my favourite flavour of the Beauty Bites, what is it, like the strawberry?
White choc raspberry.
White choc raspberry.
Yeah.
I always go for that one.
Yeah, we're going to get you hooked on Hydra Mama even though you're not a mother.
So everyone could still have it?
Everyone. We've got 50% of customers that are men, kids, not pregnant or breastfeeding. I regret maybe did we call it Hydra Mama for the wrong reason, but it is what it is.
Hydra everyone.
Hydra
I'm going to keep some in my water now when you leave. I'll let you know how it goes. What one's your favourite?
Well, you like watermelon for everything, don't you? So I reckon you'll like the watermelon.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to be giving it a go.
Yeah.
Well, it's been so good chatting with you.
Yeah.
We'll have you back in a year and you can let me know how it worked out with your friend.
Yeah, and my mum.
And your mum. You're like doing the opposite of what I'm doing.
I know. I love risks. But yeah, hopefully they're still there.
There are so many businesses out there that are friends working together or like family businesses. I think it's all about just finding what works for you and having those boundaries set in place.
Yeah.
So thanks so much. But thanks for coming down. You've come from the coast.
It's all right.
I could have picked you up, but I'm here all day.
Yeah, I've got to get back up. We're prepping for, November, which is a very busy time.
Yeah, Black Friday, the whole shebang.
Yep.
All right, well, I'll chat to you soon and thanks for coming on.
Thanks.